good afternoon if you're on the East Coast, I guess morning if you're on the West Coast, and everyone in between. We are getting ready to start the Pac-12 Building the Ultimate College Sports Experience webinar hosted by Phase 2 and Pac-12. Just a quick logistical note, we're going to be using the GoToMeeting questions feature here as part of the webinar. So if you have questions as we go through, please type them in and we'll handle them as we can as we move through the session. Ready? I think we're just going to give it a couple of minutes here. We had a number of people sign up that haven't yet joined in on the attendee list, so we're just going to give a few more minutes to make sure everyone has a chance to join. And we're a few minutes after the hour. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Pac-12 Building the Ultimate College Sports Experience webinar. My name is Doug Marcey. I work here at Phase 2 Technologies, the Director of Engineering. And I'd like to go ahead and introduce the rest of our panelists today. David, Mark, you want to take away and introduce yourselves?
Sure. My name is David Aufhauser, and I'm the VP and General Manager of Pac12 Digital. I oversee all things digital as it relates to the Pac12 Networks, including Pac12.com, our network of websites across all the 12 schools, or at least in this coming year, 10 of the 12 schools, as they migrate to a network of sites. Social media, which includes everything online, as well as integration into our linear broadcasts. I oversee a content and editorial team, and all of our mobile products as well.
And hey, I'm Mark Kramer. I'm head of technology for Pac12 Digital. I oversee all engineering and technical operations for the Pac12 Digital products.
As I said, my name is Doug Marcey. I'm the Director of Engineering here at Phase 2 Technology, or I should say a Director of Engineering here at Phase 2 Technologies. And I oversee a number of delivery teams, including the one that implemented the Pac-12 website. Joshua?
And finally, I'm Joshua Turton. I'm a senior developer here at Phase 2, one of many, but I was on the delivery team that Doug was just talking about, assigned to the Pac-12 project. So I was heavily involved with the project for a good 5 or 6 months.
Okay. I think we wanted to just take this opportunity, and maybe, David, you could speak a little bit more to what Pac-12 is exactly and sort of its role in relationship with the conference, et cetera.
Absolutely. So in a quick history, so the Pac-12 as a conference obviously has been around for a long time, starting off as the Pac-8 and then growing now to the Pac-12. And about 2 years ago, we launched a media company called Pac12 Networks. It is a wholly owned subsidiary of the conference. We are owned by the 12 universities. Pac12 Networks launched almost exactly 1 year ago in August of 2012. And when we launched with 7 television networks, a national television networks, and 6 regional television networks. We launched with a digital business, which again includes our TV Everywhere products, live streaming, mobile apps, mobile web access to all of our content, Pac12.com, and then rolling into this year, relaunching a lot of those products. Pac12 Networks as a whole also has a sponsorship and events group. So there's really those 3 divisions: the television networks, the digital business, and our sponsorship and events group. And our overall goal is to create amazing and dazzling fan experiences and provide fans and connect fans to the student athletes, the coaches, and the teams that they are all fans of. And to do that in innovative and new ways beyond what maybe has been done in the past from a collegiate sports, but also as a whole from just a general media perspective.
Excellent, thank you. I just wanted to take a quick moment here to introduce Phase 2 for those that may not be familiar with us. We're a technology services firm based in Alexandria, Virginia, with offices in New York and members and developers all throughout the country, including San Francisco. And we have pretty strong focus in the Drupal space right now and have been using and leveraging Drupal in a number of different verticals, from higher education to publishing and now media and broadcasting, as we partnered up with Pac12. So moving forward here, I wanted to talk a little bit about the goals here of this particular site. And I think David and Mark, you guys as owners of the vision, I think are in the best position to really talk about what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, so, to reiterate the overall overarching mission of Pac12 Networks, again, it really is all about creating and connecting fans and creating engagement for fans, with the content that they love at each of the universities. So across the student athletes, across each sport, and remember, from a Pac12 standpoint, unlike other leagues or other sports properties that own their content, like Major League Baseball or NBA or the NFL, we have 12 schools, but we also, each school has an average of 20 to 25 sports. And our mission is to be able to connect fans and engage fans around all of those sports and content. And so at a high level, that's the vision across networks. As we thought through how do we want to create a great digital, and then in particular, a great experience on Pac12.com for our fans, we took that vision and said, okay, how do we apply that, and what are the most important things for us, and how do we do that? How do we do that from a technology perspective? How do we do that from a publishing perspective? How do we do that from a content production perspective? And what features and functionality can we do? And I'm going to touch on a couple things, and we'll go in a lot more detail on this. But the key things for us were making everything centered around our events, and we'll talk more about that. The key thing was being able to create a great content management system that allowed our publishing team to publish fast, at the speed of the internet, if you will, but also to be able to publish in new, robust ways. We wanted to make sure that we were able to integrate, other third parties as we go along. So we have a lot of partners. There's a lot of really cool things going on, and for us, as a collegiate conference, as a media company, it's very unique that we are, centered in the center of Silicon Valley. So be able to take advantage of some of the partners here that we've been able to do, and do integrations that take that into account, and then having a really major focus on video content and on making sure that everything is optimized for mobile. And so we took all of those pieces together and put them, in one strategy, and came out with, hey, we need to build a site that's built on Drupal, and we wanted to have phase 2 help us do that as the experts in that realm.
Well, it's an excellent transition into, I think, then talking more about the solution we have begun to put in place here. And I think, as you talk about what we're trying to accomplish here, I think it's got just an immense scale to it. I think there's, people think about college sports as being sometimes a little small scale, but I think, the number of fans and the number of different pieces of content we're bringing together, the high traffic of the site, just a very rich experience overall. And I think that there's a pretty impressive set of goals, and what we've been able to accomplish is pretty amazing. I think we can kind of go back to basics and start with, why did we choose Drupal here? And I think, Mark, you're in a good position to start addressing that.
Sure. So when we started this project right after the time we launched the networks, we started looking at different solutions and had a few things in mind when we were evaluating things. Number one, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So it didn't make sense for us to sort of build our own CMS from scratch. I think that's not an uncommon sentiment. So when we started looking, open source is a really important part of what we want to be a part of. We're working towards trying to be very significant contributors to open source. Drupal sort of ticked that box. We were looking for things that we felt like we could actually scale, and we've been seeing more and more media companies really bringing Drupal to scale in front of big audiences. We had very specific requirements around being able to power our mobile apps and other services internally. We do a lot of integration with our internal broadcast operations and automation. We wanted to make sure we could use and leverage any content that goes into our system or their system and sort of bring those things across, and we think Drupal does a pretty nice job of that. And then interestingly, if you look at the 12 schools across the conference, there are literally tens of thousands of Drupal implementations running. And we felt like it would be an incredible way for us to be able to start to collaborate with students and staff on campus as we move forward. And that's something that's sort of a very broad vision of where we want to get to. We're just now starting to kind of sort of break the surface on how we're going to facilitate that. But it's a really awesome thing, because when you look at the Pac-12 and you look at the Pac-12 schools and you look at their stack, you know, Drupal is universally the thing that we see showing up more than anything else. So in a lot of ways, you know, Drupal is very Pac-12.
Excellent. I want to pile on there. I think one of the interesting things you say about scaling, you know, we needed the product to be able to, the site to be able to scale for a large number of viewers, but we also needed to be able to scale for a large amount of content. And as David mentioned earlier, the target of having, you know, a very event-centric view of the site and being able to bring together all kinds of different content, be it written content, blog posts, articles, images and other assets, video, and being able to, if you will, mash those together into a coherent experience, both at the event level and at the sport level and school level, et cetera, et cetera. I think Drupal really rose to the challenge there, and we were able to not only leverage the built-in technologies of Drupal core, but also a good number of the modules available on Drupal.org, including panels and panelizer and the workbench workflow module to be able to build that experience and leverage all of that content and bring it to bear across the spectrum of events in schools and sports, so that people can see not only information about that event, but related information, the next event, et cetera, about their team. I really think it brings everything together and allows the consumption of that vast scale of content to that vast number of people. So targeting a little bit more onto the specific kind of problems and solutions we built together here, I think asset management really became a very important part of that. And when we speak about this, we're primarily talking about images, but I think, you know, Mark, you can speak to maybe the workflows and just just the large amount of content you really had to deal with here.
Sure. So, you know, I think when you look at where we're at on our system today, and this is, you know, we just launched this thing a few weeks back, so it's very early days, but, you know, we really deal in rich media, and the things, and I think we'll talk about this probably more in depth a little later in this conversation, but if you look at the things like video, and, you know, look, we're a television network, we've got 7 channels, we're making video for, you know, 7 channels 24 hours a day. The amount of video content that we have is absolutely unbelievable. Beyond that, the individual schools are also making video content. When you look at images, it's really the same thing. We have, in any given season, about 3,000 events. So our system is the system of record for scheduling any Pac-12 conference game. And the amount of assets that are created by any particular game, let's say there's a Cal field hockey game, there's pictures that come from that, there's probably some video highlights that come from that, the school's writing articles about that, our own content team is going to create additional content around that, and what our asset management philosophy is, and what we built into the infrastructure is a way for us to aggregate content around events, be it written, photo, video, potentially audio, and really we've created some really nice ways to bring this together. And again, it's very early days. I mean, I think what we see for ourselves is really that we automate a lot of this work we've done is really interesting. A lot of the services work we've done is really interesting. Made it really easy for editors to get content into the system and package it and tag it with all the metadata that it needs, so we can create those aggregations which are valuable to the fan.
I think we're having maybe some minor audio issues there, but I just want to, again, pile on with what you're saying, Mark. I think one interesting piece for us in leveraging Drupal for this site was really being able to focus on not only the front-end experience for fans, but also the back-end, the admin experience for the content editors. I think being able to empower them to manage both the written content and all the other assets, the audio, the large number of images, the large amount of video in one interface was a really big enabler, and being able to unify that with a single set of workflow tools really, I hope will improve their experience as well as the experience of the fans. We focused a great deal on making sure that uploading of images, bulk uploads, even large numbers of images, was very easy to accomplish. That integrating images with the various different other assets, be it text or video, etc., was possible. That everything is sort of put together in one coherent sea of content, and it's all managed in one place. I think that coupled with the layout capabilities that we were able to bring to bear really give the content editors a lot of good tools and sort of a good back-end experience as well as an excellent front-end experience for the fans. So Mark, you started talking a lot about video. I think that that was obviously the big story of the site, and it's something that we spent a lot of time on in the delivery team. I don't know if you have any more you want to say there. I think that, to me, I think the most interesting piece here was the integration of both the live streaming video and your program guide content, along with the large, I'll say vast even, video on demand library that's being managed and assembled by Pac12. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, before Mark chimes in, this is David. I'll chime in. I think at a high level, the unique thing that we have around video is we basically have 3 different types of video content that we've integrated into our website. We have our 24/7 live linear streams through our Television Everywhere service, which we call Pac12 Now. That's one. We also have we call it ad hoc live streaming, but individual events that get live streamed with a normal sort of start-stop. And then we have a ton of on-demand video. And those 3 types of video are, from a user perspective, are all integrated into a video section. They're also integrated deeply into the site itself, with article pages and event pages, etc. But on the back end, obviously, the workflows of each of those 3 are actually different. And I'll throw it over to Mark, but I think it's important to understand, like, those 3 different types of video, again, from a fan perspective, are all together in this unique user experience. But on the back end, there's a lot of stuff that we had to do to make that happen.
So yeah, this is probably one of the better things that I've ever been a part of making. I've made some pretty big sites and worked on some good things in my life, and when we look at what we've done on video, we're really proud of it. So essentially what we've done is integration with a variety of partners on this, plus our own infrastructure. So we use an online video provider, Uyala. They're a fantastic partner of ours. They provide our player. They provide APIs around electronic program guide, keeping in mind that every bit of our video solution is managed out of our Drupal integration with Uyala. We also have integration with all of the university sites. So what we've created is essentially a pool by which if a university editor adds a video to their website, it brings itself into the pool of videos available on Pac12.com, thus being able to bring sort of real scale of content to bear. I mean, I think content scale is something that's just unbelievable around the amount of clips, as sort of Doug alluded to. And then the third part of it is ad hoc live streaming, which is really interesting. So on the linear networks, we'll broadcast 700 plus events live this year. There'll be another several hundred events, 500 or 600 events that happen off of our linear networks that are only available on Pac12.com. These are produced by the schools, but built in a way that they're literally integrated very, very deeply into Pac12.com. So you've got incredible automation around setting these streams up. And the quality of the streams we're delivering is very high. I mean, it's really soup to nuts. It's sort of magic when we brought this thing live and we started watching the flow of content coming in. Literally every day we come in and there's a ton of video there for our users that automatically comes in through the integrations we've done with our internal programming systems and our partner systems. And beyond that, there's even more video that our content team then can curate as well and publish for fans. So it's really intricate, really cool.
Yeah, excellent. And I think, Joshua, you were really a big part of the implementation of this video solution. I wanted to hand it over to you for a moment so you can just kind of talk through how we built this and leveraging what had been done before and working with the video provider, which, to answer one of the questions that popped up in the webinar, is Ooyala, which I believe is spelled Ooyala.
Correct.
So, Joshua, you want to go ahead and discuss this a little bit?
Yeah, well, as we've discussed in the asset management, the task here was to build a simple interface to a complex interaction. Video management is a difficult proposition, regardless of what scale you're operating at. Most implementations that I've ever seen usually involve doing the upload of video into a third-party administration, either Ooyala or Bright Cove or a number of other third-party vendors. They all provide dashboards in which you can upload the video. One of the goals with this project was to shortcut that, so that all of our interaction, all of our content creation and upload happen in Drupal. So building upon what was built by Lullabot, which was the player integration, downstream, download of video, API interaction, we built the upload component of that, which was a pretty gnarly piece of work accomplished by myself and one of Pac12 internals engineers. So what it does is it uploads the video to Ooyala, creates a node in Drupal, but it doesn't store the video in Drupal because obviously if you're integrating with a third party like Ooyala, you're doing that so that they can host and serve and store those video assets and also encode them. So we let Ooyala do what Ooyala is best at, and we let Drupal do what Drupal is best at, and there's a real nice firm handshake that happens between them. Also, any videos that are uploaded by the 12 schools into the Ooyala sort of collection, the pool as it was referred to earlier, is we get those assets through the API, create nodes locally. Again, all the video itself is stored on Ooyala, but everything happens in Drupal locally in terms of what the editorial team sees. So we've built a gigantic video library of references to videos in Ooyala. The output of this is largely automated. So as Mark was saying, we come in the morning and there's a pile of video. It's attached to events, and then it shows up in the event node. Now, there's a ton of technical detail that goes into how video is attached to events and the event pages that happen on the Pac12 site. It's really too technical to talk through. I wrote a big blog post, which is on the Phase 2 blog if you're interested in the technical details of that. But the end goal and the end result was that all of this video interaction happens with very little hands-on fiddling, so to speak. It allows the editorial team to do what they're best at, which is turn the content into something interesting, readable, and reusable.
Yeah, I think it's a really great vision too. I think that when you say, less fiddling and more direct, I think that's also a great side effect of this for the fans, and that the automatic tagging and association of those videos with the events as well as with the team, etc., allows you to discover that content much more easily. It's straightforward for the editorial, more straightforward for the editorial folks to get that content out there, and it's much more straightforward for the fans to discover it. So I think it's a really cool solution to that problem.
Yeah, one of the coolest things about it is that a single event, of course, can have, as Mark was saying, can have multiple assets. Could have slideshows, could have videos, could have streaming video, video on demand, previews, highlights, interviews, all attached to the same event, and all therefore accessible in one place.
Like I said, I think it's just a very cool solution. So one of the other things we talked about, and we did mention before, that there's a large number of integrations, or we're going to kind of talk through the various different sides of that. One of those, though, is the integration of scoreboard and statistical information into the site, both for past games and for live games. So I think, Mark, when you and I first started talking about this, I thought you had such a great vision for this, and I wonder if you could regale us once again with that.
Sure. So, we see a really big opportunity in scores and stats, especially when you get deeper into what we like to call the Olympic sports. Those are generally things that aren't football or basketball. There aren't really a lot of incredibly good solutions out there today, and so what we've started to build towards, and tonight, this is actually a great day for us to have this webinar, in so much that it's the first day of football season, and that's the first day of things really getting up to sort of a fever pitch here in terms of just the excitement. Starting today, we'll have scores and sort of like clock and down and distance for football. But that's not really what we're sort of aiming for. I mean, really, where we'd like to get to is live scores and stats for women's soccer, for men's soccer, for volleyball, for field hockey. We sort of feel like this is a very long project that we're embarking on. It's something that we're very committed to. And yeah, it's really exciting for us. We think it's great content for fans, and we also think it's a great way to introduce fans, perhaps to sports that they're not typically used to watching. I mean, so as you can sort of follow the storylines, then you can get more sort of engaged with a sport that you've maybe never seen before, because you never had the opportunity. We're giving fans that opportunity here.
And what are some of the challenges to overcome there? I know that, you're talking about really expanding the scope of this kind of reporting and this kind of stats integration to a lot of different sports. Is there one source for that, or how is that going to work? I mean, what's the longer?
Well, I think that's the big challenge, is that, for things like football and basketball, there's some really good data providers, and we've got some partnerships with people there. Once you get outside of that, there is sort of an epidemic, if you will, of very bad data. There's some solutions that are out there that are not necessarily, renowned for their data quality. So this is a place that we want to spend some time. It's probably starting later this year, and certainly through next season as well. Really trying to perhaps, and ideally, enlisting people in the community, through an open source project we might start or something like that, to start to solve these problems, because. Again, I think there's actually an appetite for this, but up until this point, there haven't been really great solutions. This is something that we'd really like to make happen.
Yeah, I think that one of the interesting things here to talk about is that this is a place where we expanded the Drupal platform and really had to kind of push the boundaries to build a tool and a solution that could start to aggregate that content across all those different providers. I think that when we get to the place where we're talking about integrating this much external content, I do like the solution we came up with, which is we have an external system that really is very event-driven, allows us to integrate with a number of different providers, but funnel all that content into Drupal and make it available through the event pages, and make sure, and the standing pages and the scores and stats pages. So again, the final clearinghouse for all of that content, be it even data like this, statistical data, really does end up being Drupal. And that allows that even this kind of statistical information to be incorporated into that editorial workflow. So I think that there's some really cool possibilities there, and I'm really excited to watch this over the next year develop as Mark's vision gets more and more realized. So moving on, I think actually we've had a number of questions about this, so I think this is a great time to start jumping into sort of the collaboration and the community side of things. We've talked about integration with the schools, integration with the fans. I think first, let's talk about the schools. I think Mark and David, you had I think again, when we talk about the vision for the site, you'd already said that included the schools, and you had to reach out and you want to share content with them, work with them on the scheduling side. Can you talk a little bit more about how that's going to work going forward?
Oh, so when we talk about scheduling, we have an internal system that we built here that is the sort of spine of our Drupal implementation that we like to call Uberschedule. And essentially what we've done is created a central clearinghouse for scheduling games. Every single game, if you're an athletic director or if you're working at the conference, even down to the coach level in some sports, you're going to use our system to actually input and publish your official schedule. That data then flows just about everywhere you could ever imagine. It powers all the event pages on the Pac12 site. It powers the schedules on the official athletic websites for each of the 12 for most of the schools. It's integrated into our broadcast operation, so we take our event IDs and actually ingest that into broadcast systems here, so that when assets are created internally in our internal systems, they're available for consumption by our website and are able to be associated basically without any human intervention around our event ID. So if I've got an event ID, I know the schools that are associated, I know the sport, I'm able to sort of spider up a tree on that stuff. This is a really big thing. I mean, I would say there's probably very few conversations that happen in this building that don't reference an event ID if you're talking about what we do, and that's all coming off of the APIs supplied by our system. So, I mean, this is a big thing for us, and it's really the piece that sort of makes all of the automation and aggregation possible in the system, and then also is then in turn used to push things back. I think the next step in this is being able to take all the rich media we've talked about and also associate it with those APIs that are powered by the system that other folks can consume, because then that allows us to sort of really create a really great network effect around the content that's being created, even beyond what we've already done, which is pretty deep. I mean, I sort of feel like in a lot of ways this is really what our secret sauce is.
Yeah, so you actually have the community using this tool directly, as well as then integrating with it through these APIs you've talked about, and I'm assuming that's also going to, as you say, like be leveraged going forward to create a more and more sort of far-reaching experience with mobile, etc. Is that started already today?
Absolutely. So already today, if you use our Pac12 Now app, you're actually leveraging this data. I mean, it's there. I mean, it's really in every single thing that we do. So it's at this point, I mean, the integration's pretty complete, and the community adoption. I think one of the nice things here is, because we're a conference, because of where we sit in the middle of this, we've been able to bring in, the solution for all these users, and we're really we're now to the point where it's like, hey, this is up and running. We're starting to see a lot more opportunities, and it's time to iterate. I mean, that's really where it's at. I mean, it's been pretty cool.
So a couple of the questions that have come in through the course of the webinar about this are one, around the APIs. Will the content APIs and the scores and stats and scheduling and everything else, is that something you're thinking about opening up in the future to even like other users, so that people could build their own apps against that, or is that something you're keeping pretty tightly within the ecosystem right now?
No, I think for certain we are very open to the idea of opening up our APIs to external partners and to developers at large. The first one you'll probably see will be our schedule API, just because I think that's the best baked at this point. Obviously, if we're bringing any external developers in, we're going to want to give them the best experience possible. And those are in place, but certainly as we move forward, we definitely would like to do more and more open data around the metadata we're creating. I think that's really valuable to developers, and it's valuable to us. I mean, honestly, if people are creating things that promote our mission, which is fans enjoying and the competitions that our teams participate in, then I think that's very beneficial for us, and it's very beneficial for fans. and I think it'd be very, very beneficial for developers. I can't see why we wouldn't want to do that.
So another question that's come in is how, if we can talk a little bit more about how we're sort of promoting the the incorporation of school content and possibly fan content into the site. I do know that, and Mark, you had you and I have had several conversations about this, but I think it'd be interesting to talk a little bit about how we are able to incorporate assets and content from the schools into the site as well, and allow this to be yet another conduit and another kind of content that's incorporated with the site. And
Sure. So we're just about to roll out the next stage of that integration, which is going to basically, we've created this incredibly reciprocal way that we can promote content that happens on the official athletic sites, and then in turn they're able to promote content that happens on our side. So, I mean, essentially, a couple different things are happening there. Number one, we're ingesting all the content created on those sites, and through the power of magic and Drupal, if you will, we're able to associate those things with the appropriate metadata: team, sport, etc. Vice versa, because we've got our schedule integration, we're really able to push fans from the schedule on the school sites back to our event pages, which again aggregates content from the school. So we've created this like really nice network effect around a fan consuming things. If you look at this from a strictly business perspective, we want to be able to push traffic around the network, and it really doesn't matter that much where an individual fan looks at a piece of content. We just want them to see it, and we want them to be excited by it. And I think that's really the way that piece works. So I would say there's a little bit of a coming soon on that, but it's a coming extremely soon. It's something you'll probably see live over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I guess another way that we have sort of school to school, school to fan, fan to fan interactions is through social media. And that's also a fairly big part of the site, and making sure that, again, this is the one-stop shop, so you can see things that are going on Twitter as well, for instance. Do you want to talk a little bit about the strategy there?
Sure. So again, this is another one of those early days things, but today we've got the functionality that, based upon a whole lot of configuration settings in our Drupal system, we're able to dynamically create Twitter lists around certain events. So we know what teams are playing, we know what sports are playing, we know what hashtags are typically associated with those teams. We know what users, the official users, are for those teams. So if you look at Pac-12 conference as a whole and social media across it, and all the social media accounts of all the different coaches and players and teams and schools, you're talking about millions and millions of followers. We're able to dynamically, on the fly, create Twitter lists that then will populate those pages.
That's excellent. I think it's going to be, again, I think it just all goes to this idea that we've talked about several times of having this sort of one-stop shop. To use Joshua's words, it's not fiddly. You go there, you see the event, and everything you care about is going to be there. And I think that just promotes such a great experience for the fans, because you can focus so much more on the site rather than having to figure out the collection of tools you need to be able to really follow your team. Regardless.
Yeah, I mean, really, if we're doing this right, that event page should do a bunch of different things. If we've got live video, you should be able to watch the live video on it. If we've got scores, we should have scores and stats on it. We should have social media feeds on there. It should work on your desktop, and it should work in mobile. And I think we're pretty far down the path to that. I mean, the site is completely responsive, and we see that works pretty darn well. We've got the video integration in place. We're moving forward in the scores and stats and the social stuff, and I think those are, it's really exciting to see that. If you look at what people are really interested in, it's games. I'm so excited for the games that happen tonight. We've got some great football games in the conference tonight and tomorrow and this weekend. I want to go to one place where I can get every single thing about it. I want to watch it there. I want to see everything I could ever imagine. So.
Yeah, I mean, and taking a step back, I think, for phase two's part, I think being part of this experience has been just really awesome. I think we've learned so much from you guys about how to serve for the fans and how to put these things forward, integrating sort of our publishing experience with your great broadcast experience, and I think and your content editors already having just such a great handle on how to cover these things. I think that we've really built a pretty cool solution together here. And I really also, I just want to talk for a moment about the way that we were able to work together. I think that this team really came together very well. And I know David, it's something we've talked about a lot. I don't know if you want to speak for a few moments about it, but I think teaming up was a really big theme in this implementation as well. This is not something where, you threw something over the wall to us and we went off and built it and came back. We really were working in the trenches together day by day to get this site built.
Yeah, I mean, we, just to give a little background, I mean, I joined Pac12 Networks at almost the beginning in January of 2012, and to get to launch in August 2012, we had to very quickly pick and work with a lot of partners to help us get launched, and we very quickly created a set of values around how we work with our partners, and we knew how we needed to collaborate. And so when you fast forward to this past year and the past 6 months and how we worked with phase 2, every company works a little bit different. For us it was all about being side by side and working. We have a couple of engineers here. We're lean and mean, but so this wasn't a project that we had phase 2 go off and do and then come back to us. This was very much and continues to be very much a collaborative and in some ways extension of our team. I mean, certainly the work ebbs and flows, but that partnership and sort of being in this together and really driving towards the same goals and creating these great fan experiences and trying to be innovative in how we do it, adhering to our what we try to do in terms of excellence and the Pac-12 and what it stands for. That collaborative nature is unbelievably important to us, and we work with all of our partners in that way across the board at Networks, and that's how we sort of pick partners. Now everybody's a little different. In some cases there are opportunities where you just need someone to go off and do stuff and come back with it done and complete and done right. For us, we needed to be a part of it and needed to work together as an extended team. So that way of working together is worked really well for us.
And I think for phase 2, it was really I'll even say an honor to be kind of invited to join that team and to become part of that larger team. I think that integrating with your engineering team so that we really were a single team. We followed an agile methodology and had stand-ups daily with your team, with every member of the team, yours and ours, and also incorporating Mark and the design team and everyone else who were stakeholders into that, so that we were able to quickly respond to requests, make changes, give feedback to each other, improve the site throughout the process. I think that way of working really enabled us to really focus on a lot of the important things here, and to make sure that your expertise and your focus on the fan experience and the school experience, et cetera, really didn't get lost. And we just had a great time working with you guys. So I guess as we move...
Yeah, I want to reiterate that part. Yeah. It was cool.
Thanks, Josh. So I guess as we kind of move into wrapping up here, I think one of the major things we like to talk about here is what takeaways you guys, David and Mark, have, as well as maybe we can give our perspective as well. But sort of what is your sage advice? What are your takeaways from this experience? If you were asked by others who were building similar solutions, or not even similar solutions, but complex solutions like this, what would you say about the best way to do it and what worked well and things like that?
I think that
Mark,
go ahead. Yeah, Mark can chime in too, but for me, the biggest thing is, assuming you have some, the time and space, if you will, to do it, is to really think through what the one or two key components, or as we call them, organizing principles, are for what you want to do, and then try to think through how those play out, or in the future, or not as well as today. And for us, those organizing principles were events, mobile, video, and then sort of together, I would say, some combination of scalability, flexibility, and innovation. And using those as a way to then say, okay, how do we create the right publishing tools to be able to do things that are centered around those? How do we create the right workflows in that to do that? How do we connect fans, which is the ultimate piece, around those things? And having that core set of 3 plus sort of the flexibility, scalability, innovation piece as how we think through everything really helped us in shaping, even from the original RFP all the way to the every day when we push phase 2 to do a little bit of extra work or do something we might have missed along the way. We can always tie it back to those things, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So for me, that was probably the key thing, is having those sort of core tenets, if you will, to lean on.
Yeah, I think to sort of echo what David said earlier, I think looking at, it's really important to sort of establish your team values at the beginning of a project, because you're going to onboard a lot of people. I mean, look, you're bringing in a lot of different developers, and having them understand what's important to you, I think is and why. Giving a lot of context is very important. I think also, look, most people that are building sites, especially in this sort of scenario, not only are you bringing an external team in, but hey, look, we're a growing team here. I brought people in on my own team in the middle of this project, and being able to have really great ways to sort of establish those values and a culture of focus around what's important. I mean, even today, look, we're still looking for people. We're still a growing team. We need more people here. In addition to the people that we're working with at Phase 2, great relationship and something that's going to keep on lasting. So hey, if anyone's interested, give me a shout. But I think that's something that's often overlooked, and people get so focused on just getting it done, and I think how you get it done and how you get the right thing done is really important. Because when I look at this site, and I've said this to a bunch of people, like a lot of times when you work on a really big, complicated project like this, you sort of, everyone goes really fast and you get it done, and then you sort of stand up and go like, "Ooh boy, we really didn't make what I was hoping we were going to make." That's not the case here. We've made something that I think gives us the opportunity to sort of grow off of. Like, we got the foundation and the fundamentals right. Now it's a matter of just making it better every day. And I think because we were able to sort of get people focused on the team, on what was important, we were able to actually accomplish that.
And I think that I speaking for myself, I think one of the things that really impressed me about working with the Pac-12 team was sort of the breadth of coverage. I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Mark. This is not just about football and basketball. There's, as you said, the Olympic sports. I think I was just very impressed with the amount of innovation that Pac-12 was bringing to that space. And I don't know if there's something you want to talk about right now, but I just want to say that I thought it was very cool that we were building a in toto sports site that covers all those different events and all those different activities. Because I think that's something that a lot of those fans of those particular sports are often lacking. I think it's tough to get the coverage that you want for, say, women's volleyball or gymnastics and those other kinds of sports. I don't know if that's something you want to talk about a little bit more right now, but I just was very impressed overall with the innovation that Pac-12 brings to the table, not just in the website but across your production.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I mean, really, when we're doing 750 live televised events and another 500 or 600 on digital only, I mean, we want to have great coverage for every sport because we think that they're all great and very interesting and something fans will be interested in.
Yeah, and I mean, from our perspective, I think that synthesis is the really cool thing, is just bringing together all the different kinds of content needed to be able to cover this wide breadth of sports, and making sure that you are getting all the best, if you will, of the workflows of like very high-end publishing houses that need to work with a lot of textual content, a lot of digital assets in forms of audio and video and such, but also this broadcast, this live TV angle, and bringing those two together in one place with the site and making it really easy for fans to find all that content. I think overall takeaway from me, I think that, as David said, just sticking to that vision and making it very clear and making sure that it informed everything we did really allowed us to build something, I think that we're all pretty proud of here. So a couple of last questions did come in, and I do want to address them. I think there was one more detailed question about sort of the mechanics of the Uyala and what was done there versus what could be done with, say, other video providers. I think this is a great segue for me to point you to some of the blog posts that have been pushed up on the Phase 2 blog, especially Josh's blog post about video with Uyala. I think that it might answer a lot of those questions there. And Mark, I don't know, this one is fielded, and I'm curious. I'm actually curious about the answer as well. There's a question about sort of room for commerce on the site. That's kind of almost the one thing we didn't really tackle at this point. I don't know if there is any plan to do any selling to the Pac12 site of any kind, but there was a question asked about whether or not there'd be any room for an integration with Drupal Commerce or any other type of provider. Any interest there?
Nothing's ever off the table, I don't suppose, but I think, again, saying what David said, I think it's a matter of, we've got our focus right now. That doesn't mean in the future that can't become a really big part of it.
All right. Excellent. So I have up here on the slide a few resources we would recommend people checking out if they'd like to know more. We have a few blog posts about this. I'm not sure all of them are even mentioned here, but definitely check out the Phase 2 blog. And we'll also be posting a few other pieces of content over the next few weeks around case study and et cetera. If you're more interested in the technical details of how the site was built, we'll continue to be posting information there. Also, definitely please follow both Phase 2 and Pac12 Networks on Twitter. A lot of interesting content from both of us. And I guess, folks, any final words from the panelists?
No, we really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody about what we've done. We're really excited about it, and we hope that fans are too.
Excellent. All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much, and we will conclude our broadcast. Thank you. Everybody have a good afternoon.
Thank you.